Are you tired of the long wait for History of Power Rangers? Express your feeling about it by buying the When's the Next History of Power Rangers shirt, available at SharkRobot.com. Pre-orders run until December 7th. Link in the description. Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. And welcome back, my friends, to the final week of Secret Origins Month. I didn't want to do this episode. Look, one of the really fun things about Secret Origins Month is a chance to look back at Gold and Silver Age comics. Despite making up almost half the entire time comics have been a medium, we tend to focus on more modern stuff around here, mostly stuff from the 90s to today. The Gold and Silver Ages had a very different style of writing, a different cultural context that the stories were made in, and that can lead to some very goofy and yet very entertaining things to talk about. And fortunately, most well-known characters got their start in those eras and have become timeless. Less so any of the generic, annoying, grim and gritty anti-heroes of the 90s. After all, I don't see anybody asking about the first appearance of Forearm. Spoilers, his power was that he had 4 arms. But of course, some well-known characters came about more recently, be it a new legacy hero, or just someone who gains a little more exposure because of them showing up in a TV show or movie. And that can certainly be said for Deadpool. The Merc with a Mouth is insanely popular right now, so him and his first appearance can't be ignored. And unfortunately, that creation brings us back to Rob Liefeld. Look, I admit I've been a bit unfair to the guy in terms of his creation of Deadpool. Regardless of the things that make people like him as a character not being created by him, he did put pencil to paper and created him. Not giving Rob that credit would be like not giving, say, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster credit for Superman, even though the character has changed immensely over the years. My frustration with Liefeld is both the seeming lack of improvement in his art over the years, which in recent times he's apparently finally gotten, well, a bit more decent and even poked fun at himself, but still. And just him as a person, carrying himself with a lot more swagger and self-importance despite his lack of development and, well, quite frankly, terrible business practices, from outright tracing better art to allegations of failing to pay people under his employ, or allegedly embezzling money from Image, or trying to screw over Jack Kirby's widow, or the time when he told Image, "You can't fire me, I quit," and they just fired him anyway. A lot of this is in the distant past, and people have moved on, and that is fine. I'm not personally involved in any of that. The only interaction I've ever had with Liefeld was when one of my fans was harassing him on Twitter about my reviews. Side note, don't do that. It's incredibly rude and unnecessary. Don't try to shove negative reviews of someone's work at that person. It's just a dick move and comes across like you're either looking for drama or just trying to be an asshole. And Liefeld responded by insulting the guy's weight. When I asked him not to attack someone's appearance, he blocked me on Twitter. That is most certainly his right, and that was years ago, so I really don't care about it. But yeah, with all that kind of baggage hanging around behind him, it's hard for me to be objective about the work he produces. Although let's be real here, I've been reviewing comics he's written or been involved with for over 10 years, and I struggle to think of any of those works being good, so it's not like he has a long history of creative successes that I'm being unfair to. But then that brings us back to Deadpool. For the sake of Secret Origins Month, I will try to approach the work with an open mind, as I would any character whose first appearance I would look at. As such, let's talk about the inspirations for the guy, and Liefeld does indeed have some creative choices behind the character. In 1989, Liefeld took over penciling duties for a book that had been slumping, The New Mutants. He also did co-plotting on the book with Louise Simonson, and thus introduced Cable into it as a new mentor for the team. Sales improved, and Liefeld ascribes a lot of this to the energy and mysterious new characters he was introducing, which probably explains why he invented 50 gajillion new characters every day during his Image days. Keep putting in new guys, and sales will be great! Part of that whole new characters thing was introducing new villains, and Deadpool was among them. Cable, when conceived, had a different backstory in mind than the one he got, Liefeld saying that both he and Deadpool were supposed to be tied into Wolverine's history as part of the Weapon X program. The idea was, surprisingly enough, based on the Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito comedy Twins. Wolverine getting all the good aspects of the program that made him into a stronger, more heroic figure, while Deadpool would get everything negative in it, screwing up his mind and body, and feeding into his bitterness that resulted in him being a jackass hired killer. The look of him came from the name itself, according to Rob. With a name like Deadpool, he could only see him in a red and black costume. The big black circle eyes were influenced by Spider-Man's own large eyes on his mask, since like Spidey, Deadpool was meant to be a smartass. So in the comics, when people mistake Deadpool for Spider-Man, it's actually kind of appropriate. As for his real name, Wade Wilson, well, yeah, he was a ripoff of Deathstroke the Terminator from the Teen Titans comics. Fabian Nicieza, who wrote New Mutants for its final 3 issues, said so right to Liefeld when he created him, and thus gave him the name Wade Wilson as an inside joke to that, saying he was related to Slade. Personally, though, beyond the similar name and them both being mercenaries, I don't see much similarity, really. But let's dig into The New Mutants number 98 and see if that opinion changes.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Liefeld, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a birdie hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazons and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
X gon' give it to ya. Fuck, wait for you to get it on your own. X gon' deliver to ya. Knock, knock, open up the door and spring.
The cover is crowded, but not too terrible in terms of composition. With the 4 members of the New Mutants, yeah, only 4, the book would be relaunched X-Force after issue 100, reacting to the 3 new characters being introduced. Yeah, not just Deadpool, who's sporting a kicky turtleneck in lieu of the normal spandex, as evidenced by that collar, but also this guy, the mysterious Gideon. The mystery is in how his hair stays up like that. And the dynamic Domino. Yep, we've technically got a twofer here. While Deadpool is the focus, this is also the first appearance of Domino, who most of you should know from Deadpool 2. Well, I say that, but that's technically a lie. The Domino in this issue is actually a shapeshifter pretending to be her. We don't actually see the real Domino until X-Force number 8, and even then only in a flashback. Anyway, let's get started. We open on this close-up shot of Gideon, having a weird vest thing painted onto him. Otherwise, said vest is apparently clinging to every contour of his muscles, as he holds his weird, long, bony fingers out in front of him. Also, he's clearly suffering from Youngblood's disease. Initiate attack sequence, please. Oh, and Adam, old chap, make it a random pattern. Now that I have this condition, I must learn to fight blind. Oh, and one more thing. Yeesh with that color scheme. Bright pinkish purple vest, brown pants, gold metal arms, and kind of turquoise gloves. Tell me, Gideon, is this just your laundry day outfit? Anyway, the attack sequence involves a bunch of beefy, bulbous, and teal-colored robots attacking him. I don't have a physical copy of this thing, but I've got to imagine that this is a 2-page spread that's been turned on its side, given the size of the dialogue relative to the rest of the book. I'm not really annoyed by this right now, since, hey, on Comixology, it's all just 1 page anyway, but I feel the need to point it out at least. So Gideon fights the robots, swinging his arms up and down in big, exaggerated poses, while the robots click away like they're made of clock parts. The robots were supplied by Shaw Industries, its owner, Sebastian Shaw, being an X-Men villain. Adam, take a memo. Dear Sebastian, I'm beginning to wonder if you even care about these love letters I keep sending. For the money I am paying, I would prefer if you would make these little tin darlings a little quieter. How dare these huge combat robots that I'm supposed to be punching not be as stealthy as Solid Snake? The guy he's talking to, Adam, comments on his fighting. Master Gideon, surely even your powers of superhuman enhancement assimilation do not warrant such overconfidence in light of the multi-pronged assault program I have prepared. Adam, surely even your powers of superhuman exposition exclamation do not warrant such a clumsy way of giving the audience information. Superhuman enhancement assimilation basically means he can copy and amplify the abilities of the things he's near. Which probably shouldn't apply to machines, but there you go. He uses their strengths and flight abilities for himself and finishes off the BattleBots. After asking about his schedule, he puts on that robe from the cover and decides to go to New Orleans for lunch in his private jet, since he's in Colorado and rich, don't you know? Oh yes, about dear old Emmanuel DaCosta. We have someone in place, don't we? Quite snugly, sir. Good, I'd hate to think he didn't have a kitten to snuggle. I like that man. We cut over to the X-Mansion, or according to the narrative captions, what's left of it. I presume something was going on in the X-Men books at the time that blew it up or whatever. That tends to happen. Underground, though, the Danger Room is still active, as we see Cable and Cannonball fighting against another huge, bulky robot. Kinda like the bulky robots that Youngblood fought. I know, I need to give this more of a fair shot, but damn it, Rob uses a lot of the same repetitious ideas, especially when it comes to the designs for generic opponents. And it's hard not to think about it, because I have to look at it! Anyway, Cable, or as we should probably call him in these 2 pages, Captain Crotch, tells Cannonball not to help him. And he does so anyway. Pissed about that, Cable decides to put Cannonball through the ringer, creating a quick training sequence. His mutant ability, that flight you can see there, also has a sound dampening effect to the blast field, but when he can't concentrate on keeping the sound suppressed, it of course gets loud. He apologizes for failing that aspect of the test, but Cable doesn't hold it against him. Learning to tone down your field is step 1. Step 2 will be to expand it outwards as a protective defense. Step 3 will be to see how we can turn it into sound-dampening headphones that we can then sell to airplane passengers. It would be a great asset to the team. I don't mean to be rude, sir, but if you ain't noticed, there ain't much of a team left around here. Although maybe I'm wrong about that. I mean, I have been squinting a lot for the last few days. I've noticed, despite me doing the same amount of squinting. One team member, Warlock, has died and they're not sure what's happened to Wolfsbane. Either she defected to Genosha, or she was captured. Either way, as Cable says, there isn't much they can do. Cannonball says that they're a family and need to help each other. If life were a picnic, you'd be a family. Since life is war, you're soldiers. You do well to start accepting that fact. Truly, Cable was the right person to be mentoring these kids in the peaceful message of Charles Xavier. We cut to the Brazilian office of DaCosta International, where we see this guy's massive office and desk. This is one of the real signs of artistic laziness for Rob Liefeld. Even if you forgive the background in the first panel, where the buildings outside the window are basically just a bunch of waffles vaguely in the shape of buildings, he gives this corporate guy a huge office, and it's just him and a desk! The ceilings are huge, the desk has more space than he could even reach from one position, but it's otherwise completely empty. The desk doesn't even have any pens or papers. It's just basically a fancy dinner table without any food on it. No statues or artwork or a TV or a phone or any kind of decoration in this place. He needed a room for this guy to be in, but to hell with putting another rectangle on his desk to indicate he had any papers or even a stationery set. But hey, Rob can't be bothered with those little details, alright? He has to create 10 more of the same character before lunch. This guy, Mr. DaCosta himself, is brought some coffee by his secretary, who's in a party dress, and her very loud high heels going click, 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 making me think that she's actually of the same design as those robots Gideon was fighting. But ignoring that, we once again have the artistic failings on display here, where DaCosta drinks the coffee, then there's some reaction, and he's then lying on his side. See, this scene is supposed to show that she poisoned him, But frankly, with the empty table and the fact that his mouth has been open this whole time, makes me think he's actually just yawning and taking a nap on the desk. Back over to the mansion, two other members of the team, Boom Boom and Richter, are discussing what they should do about Wolfsbane, with Richter wanting to go back to Genosha and get her. Also, he's doing this while having the proportions of an old Masters of the Universe toy and standing in front of a Bart Simpson poster. Man, remember when you were a teenager and you hung up a 4-foot poster of Bart Simpson on the wall? Good time. Boom Boom thinks that a mission like that is suicide, but what does she know? She shrink-wrapped her chest. Richter wants Boom Boom to come with him on the rescue mission for Wolfsbane. He even shows how serious he is about this by doing some extreme stretching for his workout. She points out how her powers aren't going to be that much help in the situation, and both of them will likely be killed, but he's adamant about being an idiot and plans to go anyway. Yow! What do I know? What do I do now? What do we do now? Scoping out the sitch, there ain't much left of we, is there? Why am I talking to myself? Bad writing, mostly. In the library, Cable suddenly finds himself attacked by Deadpool. You're Nathan, right? I'm Deadpool. Pleased to meet you. I'm a huge fan of your work, Mr. Brolin. Mr. Tolliver hired me to find you. Tolliver was a Cable and Wolverine villain who'd show up a little later in X-Force who has a history with them. Namely being Cable's son. Or maybe not. Look, since Cable's family tree is weird, let's just put it this way.
Space is warped and time is bendable.
Just as a callback to my 10th anniversary episode, though, Tolliver, a character that I don't recall hearing of until this episode, he has a Wikipedia page. At the time of this episode, Scryer still does not. But Tolliver has hired Deadpool to kill Cable. You know how fastidious Mr. Tolliver is about these things, right? So when I frost your sorry old mechanical butt, don't take it personally, okay? It's great to see that wonderful Deadpool fourth wall breaking and joking nature, am I right? Cable says he won't, and Deadpool bends over in this pose. Yep. Mr. Tolliver said you were a cold one, and he was right. Your response was so cold it made me want to push my ass out behind me. I love how despite Deadpool wearing a mask where his eyes are whited out, Rob still felt the need to draw him squinting like everybody else in the book. He aims a gun at Cable, and there's your standard issue 90s gun, which looks more like a laser pistol. I especially love how the gun is either the same width or slightly thinner than one of his fingers. Before Deadpool can pull the trigger, Cannonball flies up behind Deadpool and hits him so hard that he breaks his friggin' spine. Just look at that. Healing factor or not, Deadpool's gonna feel that in the morning. But yeah, Cannonball took what Cable told him to heart and was able to keep himself quiet enough to sneak up on him. Deadpool proceeds to change the color of his speech balloon outline from purple to red. Time for another classic Deadpool zinger. Caught me by surprise, too. I hate when that happens. And a neural disruptor net should prevent it from happening again, right? The disruptor web thingy wraps around Cannonball and knocks him down. It's going through my field! Kid's got a real keen eye for the obvious. And Cable punches him. And you talk too much. I mean, he's not wrong. Despite Cable's repeated punches that break his jaw, Deadpool is still able to talk. Then again, I've seen Deadpool talk when he's just a floating zombie head with a beanie copter hat, so I'm guessing talking is his real mutant power. He tosses a knife right into Cable's upper thigh, but before he can continue his attack, the rest of the New Mutants arrive, including another we haven't seen yet named Sunspot. Wait, how is there not much of a team left when there are still like 5 members out of 7? Richter tells Deadpool to give up, but he just launches some wires around his neck that start choking him. Yeah, keep trying to shake them loose. The more energy you expend, the tighter they'll constrict. See, the real reason Deadpool is called the Merc with a Mouth is because he won't stop explaining how his equipment works. Sunspot gets ready to charge in, but before he can do so, Deadpool gets stabbed multiple times in the back by Domino, who's now standing, or leaning? What the hell's going on with that leg? Right behind Deadpool in a pile of rubble. Hello, Cable. You called? I came. Just in time as usual. How have you been, Domino? I've been around. My pouch delivery service is going great. How's this new babysitting business of yours going? After that comment, Cable rethought his plan to call this team the Babysitters Club and settled on X-Force. They tie up Deadpool, presumably. Frankly, there doesn't seem to be any rope on his arms, so it could just be that he's holding his hands behind his back on the honor system. Also, random rock formations in the library, and Domino is standing somewhere behind Deadpool there. Maybe she's clinging to the wall? Or maybe all the team has 22 bride's legs, especially poor Boom Boom. All of their feet are covered up, but at least their legs go down to, again, presumably, the ground, while her legs just disappear into nothingness. What do we do with you now, Deadpool? You know, I've always wanted the chance to rehabilitate myself. You know, somewhere nice. How about a prison in the Bahamas? Or I could get into voice work. I hear that Detective Pikachu movie needs some actors. They decide to send him back to Tolliver, because I guess they know where to ship him to? Whatever. The rest of the team are more weirded out about how Domino is capable of making Cable smile. However, on the next page, Cable does confirm that he FedExed Deadpool back to Tolliver. So, yeah, he knows where Tolliver is. And apparently Tolliver is acting as an illegal arms merchant. Cool. Anyway, Cable shows Domino a list of other New Mutants who aren't available to join them, but he says he has some plans for that. That night, Richter leaves a message for Boom Boom that he's going to rescue Wolfsbane while he slips off into the night. Although I'm just hoping that he sees a doctor about his broken fingers. And so our comic ends 20 minutes later, with Gideon showing up in Sunspot's room to inform him that his father, the previously murdered Mr. DaCosta, has died of a sudden heart attack and was totally not murdered by him and his gravity-defying hair. This comic mostly sucks, but it's not the worst. It's a transition issue, characters leaving and coming in so that the stage can be set for the beginning of X-Force, so it feels like just a small part of a larger story, but not in a way that really helps it. It really just breezes by with nothing having been accomplished. One of the reasons why I wasn't looking forward to covering this is because while this is Deadpool's first appearance, it really doesn't matter. Deadpool's just some run-of-the-mill assassin who shows up for 7 pages, hired by someone we've never seen before as part of backstory for Cable, a newer character who had only been around for about a year. Same goes for Domino and Gideon. Aside from some admittedly striking designs, there's nothing more to them in this than what we see here. If Deadpool hadn't become a reoccurring character in X-Force, it's likely he would have been forgotten as barely a footnote. While he is slightly snarky in this issue, it's no more so than any other character. There's no wit or insanity or fourth wall breaking. He's just a dude with different colored speech balloon outlines for some reason. But the comic itself is not offensive or mean-spirited or anything like that. It's just there, setting the stage for character developments down the road and introducing a few new characters. As a result, looking at it on its own, it's just dull and uninteresting. What pushes it into sucks territory is the artwork, with terrible backgrounds, over-detailing things that don't need that level of detail, and everyone being over-muscled. And while we make fun of Rob Liefeld's inability to draw feet, the truth is he can draw feet. There are several instances where we see them. He just goes out of his way to avoid drawing them for some reason. Usually it's hands that a lot of artists struggle with, but not Rob. He just plows on ahead even when the hands he does make look terrible. But whatever. On its own, as an introduction to Deadpool, this comic is lame. Next time, we begin the holiday season with a follow-up to a movie adaptation.
That comic freaked out freak show comic book artist came up with that little chestnut? Probably a guy who can't draw feet!